Bernie Sanders saying if he becomes president, he will shake up the U.S. financial system. But Bernie's calls to break up the big banks not having an impact on the big money center bank stocks, at least at the moment. You can look at all of them, but J.P. Morgan is actually up after reporting earnings yesterday that beat street estimates. Then today, Wells Fargo beat estimates by 2 pennies. On the flip side, PNC Financial missed Thomson Reuters EPS estimates by 2 pennies. And, of course, you can see that PNC is moving slightly lower by 1/3%. We've got Wells Fargo pretty much flat here. I do want to say, though, that Bank of America and Wells Fargo posted lower quarterly profits. They may have beat, but they posted lower quarterly profits. And by the way, Wells Fargo is one of the most sizable lenders to the oil industry. We know oil has been lower. That has hurt perhaps some of Wells Fargo's business. Tomorrow at Citigroup, Street is expecting an earnings per share number of $1.03. So is now the time to be betting on banks? A lot of crosswinds here. So let's get to the floor show. Traders at the New York Stock Exchange and the CME Group. Hi, Doreen. Hi, Larry. Doreen, looking at the banks, they're not hammered certainly by anything Bernie Sanders is saying today. They could arguably be hurt more by things what Dennis Lockhart, the Atlanta Fed, is saying. No rate hike now, or perhaps what's going on in the oil industry. What do you think? Are these good stocks to make a bet on now going into the second quarter?
I think the expectations for this earnings season was so horrific. I mean, it was said to be the worst earnings season since 2009. So this season, in its entirety, could be a case of what, if it's just better than what we expected, it could be a very good sign. So I think, as you're saying, you know, they've been very mixed. Everything has been very mixed. And with politics being what it is, I think you're going to have a very volatile next few months. I don't know. You're going to have the stomach for this ride, I think, before this election, I have to tell you.
Larry, you're generally a positive guy. Do you have the stomach for bank stocks?
You know, I actually do. What the earnings is telling us right now is the consumer is doing very well. The other thing it's saying is that the bank business is really tough. But what's baked into the price of these stocks, especially these bellwethers like Wells Fargo, is that the bank business is tough. Fees are being driven lower. They're trading at a discount. When you look at J.P. Morgan, that's been my favorite stock for the past 3 or 4 years. I never get credit for that because it never goes as high as I think it should. But I do think as bellwethers, long-term, interest rates will eventually rise. They'll be very good stocks because the bar is so low for bank stocks.
Well, the bar is pretty low for all of the names out there, and not just banks, Doreen.
Yes.
Look, S&P expectations for earnings this time around are about down 7.8%. But this keeps happening. All the analysts say is it's going to be horrible, and then when they beat it by a whisker, suddenly it's sunshine and roses.
Well, that's why I say, you know, I think even in this case, even bad news could be good news if it's better than what they expected. So I think you really have to be careful in a market like this, though, because we are pretty toppy in terms of where the indices are. And I think that on a day like this, you see traders taking profits where they can, and with the hope that if things go down, you know, they'll go right back in again. Maybe they're going to be a little more flexible, maybe move around a little bit. On the plus side, we might get a little more volume, not today, but hopefully in the future. So I think, you know, I think it's going to really be a game in which you have to be flexible and you really have to be prepared for it to go either way, because certainly we can't call this election, right?
All right. Well, Doreen and Larry, we can't do that yet. No way. Good to see all of you. And we just want to let our viewers know that right now we are at 2016 highs or just slightly below them. So not a bad couple of sessions for the markets at the moment, with the Dow at 17,927, up 18 points.